once again, I don't understand, Alyosha broke in. Is he being ironic? Is he laughing? Not at all. What he is doing is claiming the credit for himself and his kind for at last having conquered freedom, and having done so in order to make people happy. So why have you come to get in our way? Dostoevsky, the Grand Inquisitor. You may say, Pingu, you've made like 4 videos on the Fractsidus already. Why are you still talking about them? Well, the main villains of Wuthering Waves are quite peculiar. While the Fractsidus seem to take on the stereotypical role of an evil organization that opposes the protagonist in their every endeavor, one thing that sets them apart is their ideology. In Solaris 3, there is no dichotomy of you as a hero trying to stop a band of lunatics, nonsensically trying to destroy the world. While the Fractsidus seem to fit that mold at first, you very quickly realize that everybody in Solaris 3 is trying to save the world, even those that you call villains. Rover, representing the godlike homeland civilization, is trying to stop the lament and save the world. The mortals desperately withstanding the Wuthering Waves, the flow and ebb of civilization, are trying to save the world. Even the supposed villainous Fractsidus who is accelerating the lament is ultimately trying to save the world. So, if everyone's goal is the same, why is it that everyone is so opposed? What if we, Rover, the supernatural force that walks like a god upon men, are the ones who are the true evil, the alien that encroaches upon this land? After all, Kuro seems to love letting us know just how flawed and mistaken Rover is, as much as they remind us that, wait, oh yeah, we are supposed to be the protagonist. We are the hero. So, in order to fully understand this battle of ideology between Rover and the Fractsidus, we need to actually understand how they think in the first place. I've covered this in detail in a previous video, which you can check out here, but I'll also quickly summarize. Rover, being the arbiter that controls the Sentinels and other Homeland Civilization technology, like the Exostrider, supposedly has a mission to save the world, but strictly will not bend their morals or the human spirit to do it. They have spent thousands of years trying to achieve this goal without much success. In their wake, there have been as many tragedies as victories in fighting against the unbeatable lament. Their endeavor to fight against an impossible fate, a predetermined outcome, borders on Camusian absurdity, so much so that a quote from Camus, The Myth of Sisyphus, is even sung by Ameth in a song.
This is why we'll never know if there's any answer at all. Still we choose to rise against the fall. So we should you from your fears. The struggle is a phase already, enough to fill one's heart and tear the facet of the void apart.
However, the supposed villains of Wuthering Waves see Rover's approach as one that has never provably worked, and as such, a radical change of perspective must occur.
Then perhaps it is we who must tear the old script and become the authors of a new one.
After all, it may have been 1,000, 10,000 years, and you, Rover, have not succeeded. The Fractsidus and the Grand Architect especially also want to save the world, but take a Faustian approach, doing absolutely anything, even weaponizing Frenodians, metaphorically selling one's soul to the devil per se, to do it. To them, spirituality and morals have no meaning once one is dead. Human survival is the absolute bedrock from which all things that Rover adheres to, virtue, morals, the human spirit, requires to even exist. Now, you may have clicked on this video and by now be wondering, Pingu, the Fractsidus has the Grand Architect, but what is this Grand Inquisitor? And well, it is here I have to make a bit of a confession. The idea for this video was not born solely because I wanted to talk about Wuthering Waves, but also just because I want to talk about one of my, if not my favorite books, Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov. For the sake of this video, the full story is not too important, for in this book there is a single chapter among 80 or so, that has since become one of the most famous dialogues in the history of literature. Within, the character of Ivan is reciting a prose poem that he formulated to his brother Alyosha, a religiously devout trainee monk at a local monastery. This play poem, which takes on the entire chapter, is simply called the Grand Inquisitor.
Ты все-таки объяснишь, почему ты мира Божьего не принимаешь?
Конечно, объясню. К тому и вел. По-моему, Алёшка, Христова любовь к людям есть невозможное чудо на земле.
Не понимаю. К чему это ты?
А вот к чему.
The Grand Inquisitor is a fictional telling of Jesus, who has come down to earth once again during the height of the Spanish Inquisition, where he is nearly immediately detained, arrested, sentenced to death by none other than the Grand Inquisitor, the one that should be most happy to be in the presence of Jesus. The majority of this play takes place in a cell, where the Inquisitor interrogates Jesus while the other stays completely silent. According to the Grand Inquisitor, Jesus' gift of freedom to humanity was a mistake. Humans are too feeble to understand the spirit of freedom and instead will fall to physical earthly temptations such as food, safety, and peace. The Grand Inquisitor echoes this dichotomy with the biblical parable of heavenly and earthly bread. Jesus' promise of freedom, divine salvation, and eternal life is the heavenly bread, while the Grand Inquisitor's approach to provide humans survival and comfort while they are alive is the earthly bread. While I was rereading this chapter, I found it startling how parallel this play was to the dualism of ideals between Rover and the Fractsidus. In the chapter of the Grand Inquisitor, Ivan takes on the theatrical role of the Inquisitor, and his religious brother Alyosha the role of Jesus. I, at least, believe that Dostoevsky's neither condemning or promoting religion in this chapter, simply airing out perspectives, throwing some cards on the table for an age-old question that is hardly original. What does salvation truly mean? As we discussed prior, both Rover and the Grand Architect are similar in their end goals in saving the world, but could hardly be called united in their approach. Rover despises the Fractsidus for their almost comedic level of villainy and terrorism, while the Fractsidus despises Rover for not being able to step outside of their little moral box and the limits that they have self-imposed upon themselves, which is inadvertently killing millions of people and destroying entire worlds. Neither is right and neither is wrong. Rover, who is effectively a divine envoy from their homeland civilization, an alien coming to Solaris to bring the gift of sentinels, exostriders, and most importantly, salvation from the lament, is someone who is metaphorically offering the heavenly bread, a spiritually just and moral outcome that promises the ultimate solution. The mortals of the world, the Fractsidus, care about being alive in the physical world. Denia even laments that there is nothing the Grand Architect cares about anymore but base human survival.
But at that moment, in front of Aleph 1, I didn't want you to die. At least not at the hands of the Grand Architect, who's got nothing left but mere survival.
Their prioritization of saving as many lives in the long run, of doing whatever necessary to achieve such goals, is like the earthly bread that the Grand Inquisitor champions in Dostoevsky's chapter. However, even if the Grand Inquisitor champions the mortal physical lives of humans, it is not because he sees them in a positive light. In fact, he sees the current humans as feeble, weak, too timid to actually understand the salvation of heavenly bread. Maybe Rover has the best, most moral solution to solve the problem, but can the people of Solaris survive to see out that ending? As a Grand Architect says to Hiyuki,
I will not discard my dignity as a human for it. I will not become The very horror I hate. Not even for retribution.
You stand on Honami's soil. You stand on a graveyard of millions. Go on. Ask them if your dignity as a human matters. I think they tell you that simply staying alive is what matters.
And if in the name of the bread of heaven, thousands and tens of thousands of creatures follow you, what will become of the millions and tens of thousands of millions of creatures who are not strong enough to disdain the earthly bread for the heavenly sort? Or are the only ones you care about the tens of thousands of the great and strong, while the remaining millions, numerous as the grains of sand to sea, weak but loving you, must serve as a raw material for the great and strong? No, we care about the weak too. With the 3.5 story, the new villain of 3.5, Muyu, also presents an interesting perspective to Rover's vision of salvation. Do we even understand the Sentinels, the Exostrider, the godly machines and designs of Rover's homeland civilization, even Rover themselves? In Dostoevsky's work, the Grand Inquisitor condemns Jesus, saying that human beings are too weak to understand the promise of freedom, and they will yearn for the earthly bread instead. They will yearn for earthly comforts. Feed us, for those that promised us fire from heaven have not granted it. Without understanding how miracles, the fire from heaven occurs, the Grand Inquisitor says that the common people will demand immediate salvation, when those they call divine cannot actually save them. When Rover fails to stop the laments, will the people of Solaris too demand the earthly bread? The Grand Architect seems to, if you couldn't already tell, take the Grand Inquisitor's arguments.
First, people abandon their morality, then emotions, and finally, faith.
What use is morality? What use is freedom? What use is God and divinity even, if one cannot live and survive? In Denius Segway Quest, the Grand Architect even sarcastically quotes the Greek hero Odysseus, saying that gods and legends, all of them are meaningless. They will all go to the void after one's death.
If they ever tell my story, let them say I walked with giants. Men rise and fall like the winter wheat, but these names will never die.
Lives rise and fall like the winter wheat, but agony, agony is the name that never dies. Let them say, I walked with the crib of the void.
If all that must be given up is freedom and morality for the sake of survival and comfort, then wouldn't that be a tempting deal? Wait, where have we heard of this before?
Abraxas! Why hast thou betrayed us?
Anyway, both Jesus and the Grand Inquisitor, Rover and the Grand Architect, are trying to save the world in their own way. However, as we said before, they disagree on what salvation truly means. Would you rather the heavenly bread or earthly bread? Would you rather save your dignity and soul, or would you save your life? Dostoevsky's The Grand Inquisitor has an ending nearly as famous as the chapter itself. Jesus, after sitting and listening entirely in silence, simply takes the Grand Inquisitor's hand, kisses it, and disappears. Nothing truly changes. But in Wuthering Waves, can Rover simply disappear? Well, of course not, because then we'd have no game to play, but more so, I guess the question that I've been asking throughout this video, and what I now want to ask you, is what does salvation truly mean? In the context of the lament, which has killed and destroyed for centuries upon centuries as Rover pursues a path of morality and justice, what does salvation truly look like? But then I shall arise and draw your attention to the thousands upon millions of happy babes who know not sin, and we, who for the sake of their happiness have taken the sins upon us, we shall stand before you and say, judge us, if you can and dare.
You're the Grand Architect's greatest rival. So making you betray your own heart is a bigger prize to them than the Threnodian fragment.
Ну, как по-твоему, что нужно было сделать с этим генералом?
Расстрелять. Браво! Ай да схимник. Так вот какой бесенок у тебя в сердечке сидит.
Я, может быть, сказал сейчас нелепость, но...
То-то и есть что но. Знай, послушник, на нелепостях мир стоит.